Shabbat Shalom, everyone. One of the most fundamental commandments that is found in this week's Torah portion is love your neighbor as yourself. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. And it's so fundamental that the Arizal, one of the great Kabbalists from the city of Tzvat, instituted in his prayer book that before we begin the daily services, we say the following words: Hareini mekabel alai, I accept upon myself mitzvah taseh, the positive biblical commandment, shel of v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love your neighbor as yourself. And many sidurim carry this line as the introduction to the prayer. As a matter of fact, when we were in Tzvat last Shabbat, the burial place of the Arizal is in Tzvat. Tragically, he only lived 38 years, but his impact is felt till today around the world. And on his grave, what he chose to have written on his grave is this statement that every person should say before they start their prayers: I accept upon myself the commandment to love your neighbor as yourself, because it's the most important mitzvah in the Torah. And we carry on this practice that he asked to be inscribed on his grave until today. And the question, of course, is twofold. How is it that you're expected to love every single person? And furthermore, how can you do it like yourself? Isn't it natural to love yourself more than others? And one of the interpretations to this commandment is that the word "as yourself" is not part of the commandment, but rather it's explaining how to come to love every person and treat them like yourself. You see, the commandment says love your neighbor. V'ahavta l'reacha. But the way to achieve that is by remembering kamocha, that your friend, your fellow man, is just like you. Meaning, the same hopes and dreams and aspirations, feelings, emotions that you possess, they possess too. They're just like you. So therefore, as Hillel told the convert, what you don't want others to do to you, don't do to others. Just think, would you want someone to do this to you? Or in a positive sense, if you were in this circumstance, would you want someone to help you? Well, then treat them just like you, because they are experiencing the same feelings and life challenges, just like if you were facing them. And therefore, put yourself in their shoes, kamocha, and then you will come to love them and treat them properly. And I learned this lesson in Israel. A woman reached out to me. Her name is Nama Halevi. And she wanted to meet with me. One of our members recommended that she meet with us while we're in Israel. And so I met her. I said, come for breakfast at the Orient Hotel in Jerusalem, and I got to meet her. And I was so inspired by her that I invited her back in the evening to our dinner to speak to our whole group. Who is Nama Halevi? She's a woman from Israel, and she was a CFO in a high-tech company. When October 7th occurred, tragically, her son, who's in the army, called her and said, one of my friends in the army, his parents and 3 siblings were all murdered in one of the southern kibbutzim on October 7th. And he said, Ima, what should I do to help him? He's all alone in the world. And so she said, let me help. And she came to his side and comforted him and tried to help him through this process, and had to arrange for the burial of 5 members of his family. And basically she started to care for him like it was her son. But then she discovered that there are actually 39 orphans in Israel who lost both parents on October 7th. So she started to get to know each and every one of them. Now, some of them were younger children who were adopted by uncles and aunts and grandparents. But the uncles and aunts have their own families, and the grandparents are elderly. And so she took it upon herself to help every one of these orphans. And then there were adults who were living on their own. And she said, I'm going to be the mother to these 39 children. And since October 7th, the past 17, 18 months, she has devoted her life to these 39 children. She quit her job as a chief financial officer in a high-tech company and started an organization called Ashore, to assure the future of these children. And on Shabbat, she has them in her home. And she calls every one of them, just like a mother calls her children. How are you? What's going on? She checks in on them. And she told us stories of some of them who are so depressed they can't get out of bed. And they don't pick up her phone calls. So she goes to the apartment, makes sure they get out to eat lunch. She raises money for them for whatever they need. Gets them an apartment, furnishes it if they're independent. And starts setting up bank accounts because she has a financial background for every one of these orphans, so they'll have money for education. When they want to go to college, they'll have money for weddings, for life events. And she devoted herself to these 39 kids with every fiber in her being. And when I was sitting with her at breakfast, her phone rang, and she said, "I apologize, I have to take this." And after she hung up the call, she said, "That was one of my biologicals." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, they're all my children. Now, I have 4 of my own and 39 adopted children that I worry and care about like a mother every single day. And I'm there for them 24/7, whatever they need. But I don't want to call them the orphans, so I call them my children. And to distinguish, I refer to my kids as the biologicals." And I said to her, "How does your husband and children feel about the fact that your house is filled with these orphans on Shabbat and during the week, and that you're always running to take care of these other children?" And she said, "My husband and my children are a little concerned about me that I'm going to get worn out because I'm constantly taking care of these children. But they said, 'Ima, we see how you get up every day with passion, with finding your purpose and the good you're doing, and we're so proud of you.'" And then she told me something very moving. I said, "How did you take this on upon yourself to care for these 39 children?" And she said, "I'll tell you." She said, "A number of years ago, I was diagnosed with a very serious illness that could have been terminal, God forbid. And thank God I survived. But when I was very ill, all I could think about is, what will happen to my children if, God forbid, I'm not here? Who will look out for them?" She said, "Now that I survived and I'm healthy, I'm so filled with gratitude to wake up every morning. And all I could think about is those mothers who are not here to take care of their children. And just like I wanted someone to be there for my children if I didn't survive, now it's my turn, my duty, and my gratitude to God that I'm alive to care for every one of these children as though they are my own children." And I said to myself, that's what it means to love your neighbor as yourself. Realize that what you would want for yourself is what every single person wants for themselves. And therefore try to love every person and care for them, because indeed they are kamocha. They have the same needs, same wants, same desires, same aspirations and goals in life. And therefore you could empathize with them and care for every single person and love them kamocha as though they were yourself. Have a Shabbat Shalom.